Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, let's do some updates.
Welcome to Bonsai Acres.
Welcome everyone inside the plant room where we have an update show in the works. And the first update I want to get right to is the PA chops that I did a couple of weeks back. And I'm doing it for two reasons. One, I want to show you the update. And two, I want to be very honest with a huge mistake that I made. And a viewer tried to warn me, and it was already too late. When they warned me, it was too late. And so I want to share a couple of things. So first, let's show you the update. So this was in part 2. After thinking about what to do with this tree and hearing all the insights from all of you, this one I left in the pot and I chopped it to bits. Let's get a close-up so you can see what's starting to grow just a couple weeks later. So as you can see, there is some greenery. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Not a ton, but it's there and it's coming. So I left this one on here with 2 leaves, and I subsequently took the leaf back here off, left this one on because I didn't want a leaf growing in towards the trunk. And as you can see right up here by my finger and chopstick, 1, 2 on both of those. So 4 new leaves right there. Whether we keep that or not is still up in the air because of these right here. But I might chop one of these off if it's not going to look great. And so then I have back to 2. Because this is kind of 3 close together. We might get some reverse taper here. So you have to be careful. So up here, there's a new sprout of 2 new leaves. And so this was the cut point. It's pretty dry and it sprouted out new leaves there. Back on the back side here, just on the trunk, not even by one of the cut points, there's another leaf, with 2 leaves actually. This branch right here has a little tiny one starting here and here. So we got a couple of leaves growing there. And this one back here has these 2 new ones, and it's even sprouted another one back in there. So we're not out of the woods yet. It's not a ton of growth, but everything seems to be okay. So after you cut off all the branches and the foliage of a Portulacaria Afra, you really don't need to water this thing for quite a while. So I'm just starting to water a little bit now, introduce just a little bit of moisture so we can now push out some more growth with a little bit of photosynthesizing started. Now, this one turned out to be okay. I think I'm going to be fine. Now let's bring in the next one. So DK Stott 29 gave me a comment that I should have read before I did part 2, or the first part of part 2. I had filmed that before I read all the tips from everybody out there. I'm going to read his post to me, okay? So DK Stott 29, chopping off all the roots and branches at the same time really makes the PA struggle to grow. Lack of roots and leaves stops the absorption of nutrients through the soil or sunlight. Thank you so much for that tip, and I'm going to spread it on to everybody else. Through my trial and error, because I had not made these major of a cuts on both the top and the bottom with PAs. They're just so resilient and hard to kill. I've had so much success with propagating that I went for it, and I paid the price. So here is the one that I did, and I chopped a fair amount of roots off of here, big time, right? There's still roots, but I chopped them off. And we had this branch and this branch left. You can see the green is already off here. I had to cut it off because it was just wilting away. This one still has some life, but this is kind of weak. It's probably going to be cut off. And the whole trunk looks a little emaciated. It looks like it's thinning up, and now we got this reverse taper bump here because this is getting skinny down here. So I failed on this one. Now, the reason why it's not a failure is because I learned from it. And I think what DK also said later, or someone else might have said it, but it might have been DK, is that something along the lines of this, and I have to be careful with this. I did this with a tree that was just kind of left over from workshops and is just in my office, and I took a risk on it. And I could do that because I literally, everybody, have dozens of Portulacaria Afras. I have probably 3 or 4 dozen cuttings that are propagating right now. I have probably 2 dozen that are in that first year of new roots. I probably have 2 dozen that are in the second to third year, and then I have several that are in that 5+. I have so many PAs that if this one dies on me, sad to say, it's not going to be a huge major loss. But you know, every time we lose a tree, it's a bummer. But I took a risk and it didn't pay off. So we're going to leave it in here and see if it kind of rebounds. But because it's getting kind of skinny and down here, it might be one of those where it doesn't work. Now, do I cut it right here and make a cutting? I just wouldn't even take the time to do that. So let me reiterate. We've learned through DK-29 and my experiment that, yeah, don't cut massive top and massive bottom on the roots at the same time. Too much stress on the tree and the nutrients are not going to be absorbed enough to keep this thing thriving. So this one probably is not going to make it. This one probably will do just fine, and it's slow going, but I wanted to show you this one. Now, because I'm doing a PA that I chopped almost all the branches off, which was obviously a major defoliation of the branches more so than the leaves, let me show you the one I defoliated just the leaf structure about 2 to 3 weeks before this one. Let's get that one back out. So here is my twin trunk that I completely defoliated a couple of weeks before those guys. And look at the growth on this one now. So as I spin it around for you, there's green on every limb. It's pushing out growth, and I think we're gonna be okay, and it's gonna thicken up really nice this year. I'm not gonna touch this in the plant room. I'm gonna let it grow and then bring it outside, and we're just gonna let this thing shoot up growth. Maybe I'll trim it once in the middle of summer, and then it'll put on another set of growth before we have to put it back in the plant room next year. So there is an example of cutting all the leaves off and what it can do in about 4 or 5 weeks. And again, I didn't water it very much in the beginning at all, and then I slowly started to introduce water again, and this thing is taking shape. I may plant this a little more upright next time. It's leaning a little bit towards the back, but it's growing fine. And there you have it, update number 1 with the PAs. Let's find something else to show you. Next up, we have the Melina, also known as a parrot's beak. Parrot's beak, because if you let these things grow in the wild and they get big and grow out, you can get flowers that kind of resemble a parrot's beak. Probably not going to happen to my little bonsai here. This is the last Melina I have left. This was from a workshop from a couple years ago, and it has a really strange growing pattern. After you cut it back, I've discovered inside, after all the growth outside, if I prune it back in my plant room to make more room for things and just cut it all back, it can go like, what? So I brought this tree in and it had growth up to here, way up all over here. So I brought it back into the kind of the form of a tree and looking a little bit more kind of a decent canopy here. And within a week or two after I did that, like so many of the bigger leaves on the structure just curled up and like said, whoa, I don't want to do this anymore. And it curled up. So be careful with your Melinas. So far with my experience, yes, indoor trimming after the growth outside has not been tremendously good. But they seem to always rebound back. I just don't want to cause it a lot of stress, so I have to be careful. So I have this leaning to the left now from this new pot in the last year or so, and you can see some big leaves still on it. We got a couple of big leaves that are okay, and all these other ones now, there are a couple that are still a little curled, but we've got new growth now pushing on this. We've got some really itty bitty little buds on here growing up here too. The tree is fine and it'll be okay. That was some stress on it. We just hope that the recovery here is going to be good for the rest of the plant room season, and then we'll make some more cuts as we go outside for the season. I noticed this branch right here and this branch in the back and right here, there's a bit of a 3 instead of a 2. So I should at some point cut one of those off. I just don't know which one it's going to be. But I don't want to stress it out anymore in the plant room, so we're just going to let it grow so it can go outside in the spring and start putting up all kinds of new growth, and we'll love life. So there's the Melina, also known as the parrot's beak. Just let you know that after a prune on these guys in this environment, after a great summer, didn't do so well for me. And so even though I cut, thin branches off, it just kind of killed some of the foliage, but then they do seem to recover, so it's not detrimental to the tree, I don't think, in the end, completely. Obviously, it didn't kill the tree or any branch on the tree. Let's put that one back, and let's get you something else for an update. Next up is the BRT, the Brazilian rain tree, which at times has looked like, gosh, is everything okay? And then other times it just opens up and it loves life. There's a little bit of death here. There's a dead little tiny branch there. Here's some yellow leaves up here, a little bit of yellow leaves up here. Everything else now is droopy because it's the end of the night and they're closing up for the night. So my room gets to about 73, 74. These open up in all their glory and then they shut down for the night. But it has its general shape and form. Nothing drastically changed. Everything's okay. And I was told by the folks there at Bonsai West that when they do workshops on these in the summer, they'll defoliate the whole thing and cut it up and repot it, and it just shoots back and respawns very, very well. So I'm not overly concerned about this tree at all. Just a quick update to show you that it's still doing okay after all the travels on the Bonsai road trip east of the Mississippi. Now, if you look at this tree, the trunk is very thick and similar thickness from about here to about here. So this tree will probably be cut down another section right here. Maybe I'll try to air layer. I'm unfamiliar with air layering Brazilian rain trees, so I'll do some research. Let me know if you know about a Brazilian rain tree success story with air layering, what I should look out for. A very different bark than the ones I've typically air layered. But yeah, this will have to come down in size a little bit so we can get more ramification. And maybe this branch back here can be the new leader, or this skinny guy right here. We just cut it right there. So we can get some taper. Unless I want this tree to be huge, which I don't necessarily want it to be too huge. And on these trees also, we leave a little for dieback on these cuts, and then we'll whittle away some of that in the coming seasons. So there's the BRT, doing very well in the plant room. Loving life so far this winter. Next up is a Fukien tea. So I've joked in the past that my Fukien tea was very finicky, and I don't have one in my own personal collection, but this is a client's tree, and they let me watch and take care of 2 of their trees this winter season. And so when I got this tree, I don't recall if I've showed it on a video, so I'll go back and look. If you look under Fukien tea, we'll see if I'll put it on the link if I did make one. But I repotted this one because I asked them, I said, hey, this is not looking great, and maybe this isn't the best time to repot, but I'm a little nervous about the soil it's in and the shape it's in. And so we repotted this thing as it came into my plant room this fall. And it looked pretty sickly, and the soil was very organic and very wet and broken down and not percolating very well. So the water wasn't going through very well, wasn't draining that well, and it was just wet all the time. And I put it into my bonsai soil mixture, pumice and akadama. This is a 50-50 blend of pumice and akadama. And look at the tree now. It is darker green and loving life. There's flowers on the Fukien tea. There's one little one right here. There's one right there down by my finger. Here's one right here in all its glory there trying to pop out. There's a couple of flowers right there and a couple up here. There's another one right there. So it's kind of nice to see some flower, and look at the elongation of the growth right here. This guy right here is pushed out growth. This one right here, the one right in front of you is pushed out growth. Look at how long these 2 are. And this one back here. So it's putting on new growth, super happy and healthy. And we're gonna have to figure out stylistically what they want to do with this tree this year. But right now, oh my gosh, I think she's gonna get this back and be so happy. And I'll be so happy that I helped to kind of salvage a tree perhaps, keep it going and move it to the next stage. So there's the Fukien. Again, this is a tree for me that when I would prune in my plant room, it could have some weird, interesting depth too. So in the plant room in winter months, I just leave this alone. And I do give it a lot of humidity. So I put this, it's in a tray that's deep, and I pour water in there sometimes. I spray water in there, and it's a very humid area, and it just right now seems to be really, really happy. So I'm happy about that. The Fukien tea, everyone. Next up, everyone, we have the China doll. And so the China doll forest here from my good friend William, who's over in the Palm Desert right now, enjoying life while we're having a really cold winter. This one grew really well in his backyard after I took care of it last year, and then it slows down in the plant room, of course. I'd rather be outside, but I did cut this one already once and then went back and trimmed a couple other little tiny sections a second time. Now, what I've had to be careful on with this tree is this tree of all of my trees in the plant room seems to be the most susceptible to scale. And as I pull it up on the spinning table right now and take off my glasses, sure enough, I'm seeing scale again right here on a couple of these branches. And so I have to go in here and take these out of here and spray this thing down. So keep an eye on your trees and look out for that scale and some of the mealy bugs, and then, you know, spray it, take care of it. I might be able to cut some of these branches off, but I have to go ahead and do that with this tree. I have to do that fairly often because I'm nervous about this tree because it's been so regular. So I want to show you one thing now which led me to look at this tree tonight. Look at these, look at this branch right here. There's a little bit of discoloration in here. And when people see yellow on their leaves with a lot of ficus trees, yellow means that we're maybe either under or over watering. Oh, do you see that leaf that just fell off? And then here's this one right here. So the tree looks really good everywhere else, but there's this little yellow spot. So I'm like, what's going on? And sure enough, lo and behold, that branch has some of the most scale on it. So we're gonna go ahead in here and we're gonna cut it right off, and I'm gonna show you a close-up of that. So here we go, everybody. I just cut that leaf off, that section of the branch that had all the scale. And I want you to look at this carefully where my pointer is. We've got scale and scale and scale and scale, and a couple down here, a couple up here, scale here, here, here. And look at this branch right here that was completely without a leaf. Look at that. Look at all the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one is really heavy with the scale. So that is something you have to watch out for. We have to look at our trees. So because this tree is susceptible to it, it seems to be prone to it compared to everything else in my collection, I have to go ahead and look at this regularly. So here's the other side of that leaf, another angle at that. You can see all the bumps on here. That is all scale. So we're gonna have to throw that in the garbage, throw it outside in the cold garbage rather, so it all dies off. So there is some scale, everybody. The next tree we're looking at here is my friend William's Ming Aralia. So what I love about this Ming Aralia is its base. So this base down here is super fun. Got the little China dolls there, little mud men. The base is real thick now and getting some great character. And these Ming Aralias are tough because they grow so up and down. It's hard to get horizontal branching on these guys. And like this one right here, we probably could put a little wire on here and try to coax it more over here. This branch is starting to bend down. I've got a little dead section right there. Let's pull that off. We got something going on right with that branch. So let me take a look at that and see if it's scale or if it's maybe over or under watering. No scale on this branch, but this branch is not happy. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off because it's in the front. Now we can see that. And what's nice, you can't see on the camera, is I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 or 6 buds brewing right in there. So if I were to cut this back right now, like this top section, it's gonna put out new growth there. And these trees do like a lot of the humidity. So I always spray up there in the corner where I keep this tree, and we keep that humidity really nice and high, and it really likes that. So it's doing very well in the plant room. It's just got a nice structure to the tree right now. It's a little big, it's a little top heavy, but we can go ahead and make some minor prunes and keep this thing growing in good shape. What should I do? Shall we do a little cut on that branch? I think we shall. That one's a little tall and skinny. And so we're gonna go ahead and get a little prune on this guy right here with this one right there. We just shortened the tree really nice right there. If I just cut the tip of this one off right here, we shorten that one a little bit. Let's go ahead and shorten this guy just a little bit. And then that brings it into a nice little kind of flat top here. I think I'm gonna leave the rest alone. I just wanted a little bit of nip and tuck on that one. The only other question I would have is in the back. That's so thick back in there. And we've got some reverse taper going on, but I love this little curly branch in here. Can we see any of this curly branch right here? That's kind of fun. If I take the branch above that off, we could have a really nice part of that tree. I don't think if I cut that off, we would lose anything. We're gonna go ahead and cut that one off. There we go. So I cut this off. We'll put those all as cuttings, by the way. Yeah, and now that opens up this back just a little bit. It's a little more airy back here. And let me cut this guy out of the way here. And then we can have that really curly branch right here grow right there. It's a real fun curvy branch. So it's not straight up and down, which I mentioned earlier is very common with the Mings. Straight up and down, we don't get that good texture that we like. So There we go. The Ming Aralia with a couple of little trims. I don't know that this is so much of an update because I don't know if I've shown you this Ming Aralia. And again, this is my friend Williams, who also owns the China Doll. And we co-own these trees. I take care of them in the winter. He takes care of them in the summertime. So we'll put this one back on the bench and give it a little squirt so it has plenty of moisture to get through the next 24 hours. So again, the Ming Aralia likes a lot of moisture. So I go ahead and spray this down almost every day, give it a good spray down with all the trunk there. I get the pot all wet, I get the tray all wet in here. And then I get the shelf a little bit wet. I don't mind that shelf, it's fairly protected with a stain. And just to keep things all nice, a little more humidity in this part of the room. The Ming Aralia really happy when I do this on a very regular basis. The next update is my 40-year-old ficus. To remind folks who maybe are new to the channel, or if you've forgotten, this 40-year-old ficus was given to me, donated to me, because it was just getting too big for their house. Now this thing was 6 feet tall, and I chopped it down. You can look at the playlist for the 40-year-old ficus and see where this has been. And I've done some chops. I took another big branch like this off right here. I started to carve this back part down a little bit more, and you can see I chopped it pretty severely right there. So right now, as the proposed front, you don't see this wound as much, and hopefully that heals over time. This one is kind of sideways, hopefully that heals up over time. And if I can get a branch even to grow right down here up like this, that might not be horrible. You'll notice though I have a big branch here and a branch here and here. So that's again 1 going to 3. This still might get too big and bulky, and you can see there's a little bit of a knuckle right there. So it doesn't look horrible right now from a couple of angles, but I might have to cut one of these off in the future because it's just too much. This could be the branch that's going back this way and going up, and that could slow this part down, and then this could be the main apex of this tree, the leader. And then this one just keeps growing, putting out new growth. Here's some new growth right down here. I don't want 4 or 5 little mini branches growing right there. This is new as of last summer. So this is a brand new branch. It keeps growing up. It's got a little wiggly here. It's kind of an odd position with this tree and this big old chunky part here. So, you know, this is a tree that has great age and great Nabari look at the bottom, but it has a little bit of funkiness up here, and we just have to work with what we got and see if over time some of these can heal up. Got a really nice branch growing back here, but look, 1, 2, 3. So then do I take this off completely someday? And then it all heals up, and this is the main branch with this one starting over. And then you have massive taper right there. But if you can see taper, we have thick to thinner to thinnest up here. So there's taper. This wound, unfortunately, is in front. I could always change to maybe this as being the front. That's always a possibility as well. The Nabari isn't as pretty on this side. But it's a tree that's manageable now. So I'm gonna get it out of this pot later on this summer and put it into a bonsai pot. I think I have one that's big enough to hold it. I hope I do. Otherwise, I might make a homemade box for it for a couple of years as we continue to try to make this into a tree that we can start to get these primary branches where we want them, and then working in the future towards secondary. This branch is a little thick up here with a wound up here. This was a recent cut, but it's healing up nice. But maybe we cut this chunk off for this piece right here. And again, that slows this process down so we don't get so much back budding here. We may have to carve more of the trunk away, to be honest. But it grows really fast, so I think if we let this just go crazy one summer, a lot of the healing will take place, and it'll be good in time. Slow but sure. This branch wasn't here a couple of years ago when I first got it, so this is new. It's kind of on an inside of a curve, but it's growing real nice. I might take this section off next, and we have this main branch right here. And it's growing kind of up and out this way. We take this one off, and we have this nice branch that kind of goes up a little bit, then over, and it's kind of a horizontal branch. So I'd like this one to maybe go away maybe this summer. So the 40-year-old ficus is doing pretty good, and now I've had it for a couple of years, so we got to say 40 plus, so maybe we're getting close to 45. There is the ficus tree looking pretty snazzy. And let us finish out the show with the most viewed tree in my collection. This is the holiday cactus. This one is a Thanksgiving cactus, and I chopped this one literally the week or a couple of days after Thanksgiving. We host Thanksgiving on the Friday of the holiday, and then that Saturday or Sunday, which was the very end of November, I chopped it up. So we've had December and January to grow. We're into February now, and you can see there's growth around this guy. Slow but sure. There's a couple of real nice splits into two right there. There's a nice new set of buds right there and there and there. There's some new buds right there. So it's nothing fast and ferocious, but buds, buds, buds. It's buds everywhere. The tree is happy. This will really take off in the summer. So it just sits in the plant room all winter long, and when we get this thing outside, it's gonna really start to love life. And I will remind folks, I'm gonna keep this in a little bit more shade this year because I've been told with a little research that these are kind of an understory cactus type tree, not out in the desert, dry, super much ton of sun, kind of an understory type holiday cactus where they come from. And so I'm gonna keep it in a little bit more shade, partial sun, partial shade, and see how far this thing takes off this year. I'm trying to grow it tall so we can see a lot of woody trunk look to it, and then all the flowers go over for that weeping willow look. So there is the Thanksgiving cactus. And that wraps up a little bit of an update for you. A lot of people have been sending a few messages here and there. I noticed a couple of comments that said, hey, it's been a little quiet and I haven't put out as many videos. And so thanks for, checking in. I do appreciate that. Kind of a slow time of year for me this go around. I haven't had a ton of things to do. And as much as I love making the videos, I don't want to just make a video just to make a video. I want to have some intentionality behind it, and I thought these updates were a nice way to get me back into videotaping here in February. We have a couple of things we're going to do here in the coming weeks, I hope, including another trip up to Bonsai Acres, which is, of course, where most of my excitement and passion lies these days. But we have plenty of trees to work on. As a matter of fact, we just talked at the Minnesota Bonsai Society meeting last night 2 nights ago already. Wow, time flies. We were talking about how some of us start to repot in February, and one of the guys said he even starts repotting some of his trees at the end of January. So if you can repot some of your conifer trees early, you still have to put them in your cold frame, keeping them at about 40 degrees until they're going to wake up for real for spring. So you're able to repot some of those trees pretty early. So now that we're the first week into February, towards the end of February, in a couple of weeks here, I'm actually going to start to repot a couple of my trees and get them ready because I think I have a very busy spring ahead of me, and of course many, many trips up to Bonsai Acres. So keep in mind, we've got the big Bonsai Expo, July 26th of 2025. I'm looking for all your pictures. If you want to send a picture of your favorite tree, bonsaiacres@gmail.com. Send me your photographs, and if you have a YouTube channel and you would like to showcase something that you're working on, you can make a video between now and the first part of July, 5 to 10 minutes long, and I will showcase it on our big event on July 26th. There's a lot of buzz around this. People are starting to talk about it. That's so cool. And we're going to have fun just talking bonsai for 6 hours or so on Saturday, July 26th. So more information on that as the spring comes and goes. This tree is going to go back on the shelf, and I am going to go take a little rest and watch maybe a show myself. So until the next one, hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very soon on the next one, or maybe up at Bonsai Acres.
Welcome to Bonsai Acres.